countries and industries of the future. Who will rule the post-crisis world? I'm going to share right now my screen because I have prepared a presentation so we can follow it. Okay, I think everybody can see it right now. Is it right? So, what countries and industries on the future? Our agenda will cover several points. The first, it's we're going to do an outlook, conceptual outlook on global macroeconomic trends. I'm not trying to be here someone who predicts what is going to happen, but well, figures will show us, will help us to how the future will go on. Second, and most important, who rules the world? And we are going to focus on sources of power, China versus USA, who is going to rule, and also impact on global business, because we can see it in terms of countries, in terms of firms. Third, in the new international scenario, which is the most successful companies. Fourth, the latest point is about a post-COVID-19 paradigm, the challenges of the future for companies and for states. Financing your business, because, well, we have to make a link about all firms needs to be financed. And also we cover that in the course that we'll held in October, and there is a kind of link of what is needed to take care of in all companies. And finally, some conclusion keys of competitiveness after COVID-19. So let's start with the global macroeconomic trends. With the global macroeconomic trends, here we can see it's how GDP has evolved from the 60s. And as we can see, it has evolved always in a growing path, in a very, very global growth. The latest years, the world has known a really strong growth everywhere, as we will see in the next slide, when we can see it by countries. And when seeing by countries, several, we cannot put everything here, everybody, but we will see with the next slides. We will see. We'll share how is it shared over the world. But we can see that, well, the sheriff is always the states, United States, but follow it closely by Chinese. China has grown, has known a real growth, but it keeps always the distance. It's keeping the distance. Then Europe, you can see the two main countries, Germany and France, well, it's they make different. But if we take the whole European Union, then we can see that it's the second economy that depends on the year in the world. So, how is the GDP distributed in the world? Well, we can see it that this is in 2000. In 2000, if we can see, this is the whole GDP. Well, 52% is belongs to the states, the United States. Japan was 15%, Germany 6%. And what I want to share with you is that here we can see China 4%, but we can see Russia here. Russia is not here; it's into the others. In 2000 wasn't enough big to be showed in that picture. Then when we move in 2020, Russia is here, 2% of the economy, but China is 18% of the economy. But if we can compare this from 2000, others it's 15, and now it's 19. That means that the lowest economies has also grown, has taken more advantage. The poor countries are take some advantage, are growing. That means everybody's a bit bigger. And not everybody is rich, but we can share more. But there is a long way to run. But China is perhaps the main difference that we can see here. So when we compare it geographically, we can see that 26% is North America, only 10% South America, Europe it's 21%, China 16%, and then we have India, London, and Australia. But Africa, the big Africa, is just only 4% of the GDP on the world. Then we have put here just to notice that debt, external debt, it's not an issue right now. Nowadays, it's not an issue. It was an issue in the 80s, but today we can see that external debt of poor countries compared with that ones of the richer ones, not really an issue. And we can see that some difference, some singular differences in terms of external debt. But how is distributed the GDP? And we are focusing that because we're going to see that GDP is a source of power, the main source, but not the only one. Well, if just only testimonial sample, Lithuania, who holds that conference, has also known a growth in GDP these last 20 years. So with the crisis, we can see the 2008 crisis that, well, shocked everybody, all countries in the world. But we can also compare it with some corporations, country versus corporations. And well, here we have American stock market corporations, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Berkshire, market capitalization versus what can be the GDP. In this case, I put my country, Spain. It's 1.3. That means Microsoft is bigger than Spain in terms of market capitalization. And also Amazon, it's bigger than Spain. And this year Amazon has known real growth, has overcome Spain this year after COVID capitalization market. Amazon has known, all tech corporations have known a growth in capitalization, market capitalization. So when we look at the size of some companies compared to some countries, we can see that it's not a small subject. With European market, well, the size is not as big as American companies. So French and Germany, we can see Spain, French, and Germany GDP versus Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. Well, let's continue in 4 measures that I think that make a big picture in macroeconomic terms. That were the convergence criteria of Maastricht for Europe. That was inflation rate, exchange rate, long-term interest rate, and public finances. Just a quick look over these trends will help us to understand the threats and angers and fears from some countries. Inflation, we can see that the globalization has taken not just only Europe, but also the States, all Western countries have quite a converged inflation rate. But we didn't take, what is important to see is that inflation rate is an issue that concerns a lot of Germany. Germany, this is a picture of pre-Second World War. The the German administration doesn't want to see this kind of picture again. That was when it was easier, and it was cheaper to burn money than to buy wood to get ahead. So this was a catastrophe that led to the Second World War, this kind of poverty, and always will be a subject, an issue for German administration, the control of inflation rate. We must look at this issue always in terms of actions, politics in Germany. And nowadays, the last figures showed by United States, they have now a peak of inflation of 4%, over 4%. That this is something that we will have to take a look. This expansion for COVID-19 leads to inflation. Exchange rate seems to depend on relative profitability of investments in two countries, compared to countries, measured by the productivity differential, the interest rate differential, the current account balance, that depends on debt and risk, and also price inflation rate. So if we take same point from 2011, we can see how have fluctuated from China, Japan, and UK, United States, Switzerland, and Brazil. And we can see who are losers, who are winners. So that means that exchange rates is a way of seeing the degree of success of how successful is a country in their politics. Under one and over one. So China has completely is the winner in terms of balance in the exchange rate. It's for his the current account balance. It's clearly favorable. Well, long-term interest rates, the politics has been to moderate, to take into account the inflation rate. So long-term interest has been low. But that we can see this is in the euro, and also after COVID, the long-term interest rate for the dollar has been completely assured. And public finances also makes a difference, and we need to understand that public finance. I also make the comparison of the community of a building. We live in a communitary building. The president of the building has to take account of the finance of the community. So we can have the clean services with the pool and some shared services of the community. So we need to have some quotas. We need to give money to pay the pool, pay the services, the common services, the cleaning services. So and that depends on if you have more revenues than expenses, that this is the P&L of the community. Well, the state is the same, but this is about tax and services provided by the state. So and we can see the evolution of after the 2008 crisis till right in 2019. This will change a lot after COVID figures. It was an issue to be content, and in terms of percentage of GDP, that means the debt. Now we are looking at the balance sheet of countries, and the balance sheet of countries, it was contained, but I don't show. I'm not going to show the figures after COVID, because we don't have enough handkerchief for everyone to take the because we're going to cry. So we're going to look at the hope. Current account balance. Current account balance is if you sell more or you buy more in terms of country. If you if you buy more, it's what happens in the USA. The current account balance is negative. So it's a pressure. You are going to lose competitiveness of your currency. It's not the case of China. China has grown, always has a current account balance positive, and some countries in Europe has changed the trend. That is the case of France after the 2008 crisis, not the case of Germany. Well, just to finish this outlook, we're going to show some figures. An employment rate, the forecasted after COVID will grow a lot in terms of this is global unemployment in the world. We see it in terms of several countries. Well, there's a kind of convergence, but some countries has structural unemployment. I haven't shown here Spain, but Spain has always structural unemployment. Difficult to explain, but the country runs with that overweighted structural unemployment rate. Well, and to finish that, we are going to see something that it's kind of weird. There's oil consumption compared to the price of the oil. We can see that the oil consumption has grown steadily. Has grown from the 80s, hasn't stopped to grow. Even if we are now speaking about changing the energy, the sources of energy, the green energy. Well, it will come, but the figures are clear. The world is now every day is consuming every year more and more oil, and we could expect the same trend about price. No, the price and consumption doesn't fit. That means that prices are more political issues, but consumptions are the needs. So if you have inelastic demand and the price move, that will shock economies necessarily when it happens. So comparing what it's offer, what it's price, what is demand, and what is price, that takes account of. So to finish that, some conclusions about a diagnosis of the global economy. First important is globalization or semi-globalization. That depends the way you look at it, of the economy. It's a globalization, but not the same level of globalization all over the world. Second, it's unstoppable and extraordinary power of tech industry. We will see it again in our speech. But tech industry, it's what takes right now the starring artist in every country, every industry, every economy. Structural migration of productive industries. Well, localization, delocalization, relocalization. Now it's we'll see next year really changes about that, because COVID-19 has shown some structural weaknesses in terms of delocalization of industries, and what is needed to take to take control of. Health services cannot be delocalized in terms that we have seen these days. Population changes. Well, we are now here. We joined this morning this webinar. We are expected to live quite 100 years. So that means a change in consumption needs, in services, and a lot of also then migrations. Population changes, imperfect market composed of social oligopolies, big companies, governments. That means when power is gathered just for a few ones, in terms of countries, in terms of corporations, this leads to an imperfect market. That has the power usually uses it. Shaken labor market is the leisure economy because of population changes. Fourth and sixth are in some kind related. Intellectual capital and brands, the power of a brand. It's the power and the value of the value and the power of a brand. We prefer some brands in comparing with other ones. Intellectual and capital brands, and finally, health crisis. This is a paradigm, the change of paradigm. We are living the change of paradigm in several issues. We are going to deepen on it. Second part of this webinar, and I think the most interesting perhaps, is who rules the world. According to what we have seen in the outlook, we will take a deep analysis about who is ruling the world, sources of power, China versus and this commercial war that we have seen these latest years, and this impact on the global business. Well, we could start just saying that the game is between the crooks. Who are the crooks? The crooks. Well, Xi Jinping. Some guys that we are the world is ruled by these guys. Well, this one is not. It has been changed by this other one, but that will make a change. Really, we're going to see it. But well, great powers. USA and China trade war. The fact is, we could say is that the old saying goes that when America sneezes, the world touches the cold. No? Well, America, you've seen it's more than a quarter of the global economy. Even it has grown, even all the world goes, but America doesn't stop. And what are the sources of country hegemony? Which are these sources? One, we have already spoken about that, is the GDP. The GDP is power. The economy, if you the GDP is it's the way we measure the health, and the wealth of a nation. Health and wealth of a nation, a country. GDP, and there's a club of the most powerful GDPs in the economy, the different levels. GDP. Second, the currency. Dollar is right now the currency, the hegemonic currency in the world. Everybody wants dollars more than euros, more than I mean transactions. International transactions are held in dollars, not in yuan, not in rubles, not, well, some of euros, yeah, but the hegemonic currency is dollar. And finally, the third source of power clearly is military force. And we have to listen to listen carefully about space war. Space war, I mean space war, I mean space career. Who is going to get first Mars? That was we are looking at the film that we watched in the 60s. Who were the first to get the moon? Who were? That means, but this is military. Well, in terms of China, what are sources of China hegemony? Well, first of all is authoritarianism. China is it's a state that is not free to do whatever you want. The Communist Party is amazing, all power without any accountability mechanism. They account to the PC, the Communist Party. The authoritarian political regime accompanied by, this is quite weird, quite strange, economic regime. This is that means state capitalism. This is a state capitalism. Capitalism, it's some weird, but it has worked. And China's external goals are always subject to internal goals. They have their fears. I mean, it's more important for them internal stability than to have a strong external currency. And also, well, you have heard about this guy, what happened to them, to him, because he disappeared, completely disappeared during several months. Well, now he has chosen to take a low profile because he wants to live some more years. Well, the sources of general is a fierce capital control. They not they have strong forces to get out of China of money of Chinese wants to take their money out of China. So, but this is a force. The only way to control it is not to allow it. Right? This is the first capital control. The financial external debt, they control, they finance the external debt of the United States because they have excellence with a lot of dollars. What they do with that dollars, they finance the external debt of the United States. They have a favorable trade balance, the competitiveness of his economy, and we could ask ourselves: is Xi Jinping reformist or conservative? A reformist because, well, you can see him. It looks like a nice guy. He's you can see him in the news, close to people. Is he a reformist or a conservative? Well, most of analysts think that he's clearly a conservative of the power of the Communist Party. And why they have this kind of success? Well, because they take their strategy is free riding. Free riding means that they are not in the same rules that everybody is. Free riding is when in 2000 they joined the World Trade Organization. People thought, oh, it's a big market for us, a new big market for us. But free riding means that they're not doing the same rules in and out. They sell outside, but you cannot invest in the same rules in China. They say high selling prices with low wages. The state enterprises, 1/3 of enterprises, 2/3 of enterprises are state enterprises. 2/3 of the China enterprises are state. So more revenues for the state, more money for them to invest in the sectors outside that they look after. They have access to international markets without reciprocity. And this, the World Trade Organization was designed to tackle, was not designed to tackle similar practices. All its members were assumed to be market economies. Not the case. It's a capitalism of state. The Chinese market belongs to the Chinese, not to everybody. If you want to invest, you have some rules you must follow. It's kind of complicated. It's difficult to be free if it's not free competition cannot exist for foreign companies operating in China, since it does not even exist for private Chinese companies themselves. So that means that it's complicated. Europe, for them, systemic rival or economic competitor. Well, we have seen Italy now. It makes some kind of links, investing links with China that makes the European Commission some nervous. Key to its growth: invest to appropriate sectors chosen by the Communist Party, mainly technological. We can see that tech is the rule of the world right now. So they are. And for that reason of rewriting, we must understand what America administration, I want to emphasize that I didn't say American administration. Yeah, led by this guy that was Trump. But well, they decided to do that because they're not playing the same game with the same rules. It's understandable that a kind of administration that also wants America first starts a trade war. There was an impact to consumer, that the inflation, more expensive iPhones, clearly. Reduced growth, fewer cars, machines, shoes sold, and also tariffs and restrictions. Trump ordered to increase tariffs in China imports by $3,000 billion. They say, listen, if you are playing with these rules, I need to protect my companies for this not fair play. But when you do some kind of attack, or one can think that it's a kind of attack, the answer is a kind of geopolitical impact. No reconciliation between China and Russia. This is what we have seen these last years. Aggravation of technological warfare, and we just only to listen the news, the media. Worsening political situation in Asia Pacific. It may worsen the situation in Asia Pacific region, where there are many unresolved territorial conflicts and disputes that we must take a look on it. And Joe Biden, new president since January, is he going to act differently? What do you think? What do you think? Well, I'm going to share a tweet that I took from my iPhone. This is from my iPhone. I took it. Listen, it's time we invest in the future of America once again. Listen, do you think it's kind of different of what Trump said all these years? American administration will look after the interest of America first, whichever is the president. Well, after this picture of what is the country's trade war, we can see then the impact of on corporations. We have seen these latest years the technology growth. This has led that in 2000, the market capitalization of several companies was this shown right now. General Electric, Cisco, Exxon, Pfizer, health company, and Microsoft. You can see the market capitalization of Microsoft in 2000, and this has led today that the big five guys are all technological. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook. Technology is an issue. Well, I'm going to explain now an anecdote, a personal anecdote. Let me explain. Ask your permission to explain an anecdote. Last week, I was in Ivory Coast. My daughter asked me to go to my apartment because I have a pool. I said, oh, you can go, but anything in the fridge, because I've been 10 days out, so you do not find anything at the fridge. Oh, no problem. Can you buy to me by glove? From Ivory Coast, I bought from Globe up the lunch for my daughter in Barcelona. And the delivery was at Barcelona, but I did the comment. I asked the comment from Ivory Coast, and then by Bizum my son-in-law paid to me by Zoom. So this is technological based economy. It's a kind of sample, but just only to show the power of technological industry and how has changed the world in this 20 last years, and it's going to go on. We can see well, we already seen the GDP Japan and GDP Germany. It's 3.9. The big guys are going to touch them. Zoom. We are now doing this webinar with Zoom. 2 years ago, nobody knew who Zoom was. But right now, his value, it has overcome the addition of Southwest, Delta, United Airlines, NG, and also Air France at the end. That means the power of tech industry. And how has Zoom known this growth so quickly? We didn't, because he works on Amazon platform. Amazon wins money not in delivery services, but in web services. The gains, the most gains of Amazon are in web services. And from industrial leaders to tech leaders, these guys are who rules the world in terms of corporations. And you can see the dress code is quite the same also. But I want to point out that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk were who's going to gain the space the space course. They are who will run first, who will win. Well, it's going that was in the 60s about countries. Right now it's also about countries, but also corporations. Who will win the space trade? In terms of 5G technological leadership, who is investing more? These are investments. Huawei, China. Hillscon, China. China, fourth company, China. Where is the United States? It's in the 5th place. That we can understand what we see in the medias, arresting some managers of these companies. But if you're losing this battle, you're losing a kind of source of power in the world. Post-COVID paradigms, the challenge of the future we're going to face as companies. Well, artificial intelligence is here, and we need to deal with it. We need to understand it, because it's going to make a part of all business in the future. Research and development, we need to competitiveness and productivity are related. Automation, we need to understand that we need to understand the new paradigm that is going to come, and what the challenges we're going to face. First, big companies, but then small, medium companies. Everybody is completely involved on that evolution. And a study of McKinsey said that by 2030, 55% of jobs requiring primary education will have been automated. And also, with a lower impact, jobs requiring higher degrees will also impact it. The automation of industries is already here. 5G goes in this way. Well, an anecdote. Why UK schools teach analog clocks? The student didn't understand them. Well, analog clocks are going to disappear because it sounds a job, but it isn't. Economic and social-cultural impacts too. Remote work. We didn't thought about that 2 years ago. It was kind of too much great to think about, but we are now completely normal in this kind of webinars. I'm more regular, and we feel comfortable with that. That 2 years ago was kind of weird. Well, we like it better presential ways of conferences, but remote new forms of conciliation. Environment impact, low carbon economy. Well, I think this is more poetic than real, but in 50 years, for sure, this will change, but not in the next 10 years. Sector affected and sector benefit from them. We will explain, show a kind of difference depending on the sector you are in. A third of the population in local jobs and health, fear of traveling. That will change. That will change a bit. But impact on planes and cruises. Homework, a kind of working remote work that makes that hundreds of square meters are going to be liberated. Many people is going to the country again. Country is going to know a new spring of flowership, because well, many people prefer to go just only 1 day a week at big cities, and the rest of the week working in the countryside. Challenges of the future and short term. What happened in the COVID stage last year? That was the paradox of airlines. While the oil prices decreased, airlines lost 90% of passengers. I can share also that flying this last week, 1 month ago in Charles de Gaulle Airport transfer terminal, from 10 screens, just only worked one screen. 10 screens showing the transfer flights, just only worked one. All 9 screens were down. But one week, the last week, then when I came back, that was half the screens were working. That means well, the economy, global economy, is re-engaging. The engines are starting again. Long term, we will travel again. Greater attention to passenger safety, greater added value. The COVID passports will run in July. We will run again. But the terminal was like a BIP terminal. All the terminal was a BIP terminal because you very well treated. Everybody was really nice because we were a few just. Well, may win pharma, distribution, last mile delivery, technologies, mainly telecommunications, health, life science, well-being, artificial intelligence. May lose airlines, oil and gas, real estate, offices, free offices, lots of free offices. Retail, they have to re-engine. Cruise ships, culture and entertainment. We need to redesign, to reinvent how to do it again. Some thoughts. This is a personal thought. Liberty, equality, but the most forgotten always is friendship. We need to think that we share the world. And this is an economy. We need to earn money, but we need to keep a dialogue, a live dialogue with who is in front of us. Fraternity. It's a kind of opportunity for more climate-friendly economy, but I think this will take a long time. Opportunity to reflect the economy model as a whole. We need to clearly needs to think and rethink our business models. We need to take the path of growth again. Think about poverty. Poverty, it's growing. Cells of poverty. Environment. and a better world for everyone in the kinds that we can think about. Financing. Financing will face also challenges, and this will lead some in a part and on the course that we're going to help in October in Vilnius. What are the challenges in terms of financing? We need to be able to quantify the impact of abrupt changes, that is the case of COVID, on our operations. That means procurement, stocks, production, sales, collections, economics versus financial ethics. Every decision, every economic decision has a financial impact, even if we don't think about that, but it happens. So we must put in mind where I get the money. Yeah, financial, it leads about how can I hold the line of money. Which solutions to apply, operational or structural solutions, working capital or needs or funds? Right now, it's very, very important that my recommendation is get as much money as you can these days. I will repeat it. If productions or sales are seasonal, do we know how to quantify the impact of a shock in the supply chain, like right now we can really have, or collection periods? If clients have problems, they won't pay at due date. Which solution should we attempt to implement? Is it a good time to invest or not? Sometimes, well, several firms have waited what we can expect, but others have really invested, have made lots of improvements to prepare for the new paradigm after COVID. Well, these companies are really better prepared. Accumulate as much cash as possible. We must be loaded and overload. Manage short-term cash flow, ensuring liquidity. You need to have disposable cash. It's a must. Right now is a must because you don't know what will happen next 3 months. I mean, it's a kind of equilibrium between short-term and long-term. We need to act short-term, but we need to think in long-term. What will change? Reconsider each and every one of the expenditure items, especially the structural ones. Not, well, we have already that. No, we have to change everything. Rethink everything. We do the forecast with quarterly projections. Everything can change in a few weeks. We don't know if another kind of viruses can come. We must be prepared. Be on the lookout for opportunities, new businesses, new markets, competitors in crisis. We must see it more an opportunity than a threat. But take care, my friends, take care. Conclusions. Conclusions of the overall we have spoken. Keys for competitiveness after COVID-19. Well, the economic crisis has no structural reasons, but has become structural. It has exogenous reasons, the health crisis. The previous crisis of 2008 was structural. It was not well structured. It was a kind of a financial problem in the foundation. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. You must think the reality. What the facts? What is our present? We need to understand it to act and react and to prepare for the future. The main problem in what I can see everywhere is the lack of leadership. It's a word too much used. The leadership we spoke about, but listen, I think there is a very lack of leadership, political leadership, and also in the firms. Lack of leadership creates uncertainty, which leads to fear. Fear with employees and population. It is in our companies that the deployment of talent is most necessary. Board of directors, entrepreneurs, and managers. And I encourage you to prepare for these challenges. Country challenges start growing again in a sustainable way. Previsions FMI said that we are going to know strong growth, that if projections, if there is no another bad news, that will lead to a growth. As soon as possible, find the path of growth. Exorbitant public deficit, that will lead to exorbitant debt. That's clear. And that will lead to new rates of inflation. The inflation is a threat, always. Higher country risk premiums. More weight from the public sector. That needs to be led by governments. And this also means structural change in the administrations that we are not really prepared. Protectionism, more protectionism, even more protection. I say even more protectionism, nationalism, and interventions. More poverty. We need to think about that always. Change in consumption habits. That is a reality that we have to face and we have to prepare. And this is more an opportunity than a threat. But be also aware about fear. Fear of people, fear of consumer, fear of population. Rethinking the business on a blank sheet of paper is what we need to do. Rethinking the business. Thinking long term with some short term. We need to balance short and long term. Revenue and expenses management. Challenge the dominant mental models, always. Break the mentality of mature industry. Oh, this is a mature industry, we cannot do anything here, it's complicated. No, everything is, there is room of opportunity everywhere, every sector, every firm, every country. Think about people, attract talent. We are sharing this world all together. Some people has to be a manager. All others are to be followers. But we need to share everything. We share the world. We share the wealth in an open way. Capture financial resources, always. Financial resources, money. We need to get money. Reflection and action and long-term leadership. It is always concerned about leadership. Without leadership, we have nothing. Without leadership, we have nothing. And finally, successful, just to say, successful companies are those that know to adapt and to promote change. We're living in a changing times. Change takes into account of everything, every day, every year, every month. We change, the way we adapt to this change is the way we can measure our opportunity to succeed. Thank you very much. I have already finished my explanation. I am now aware of your questions.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for showing us different aspects of the global economy and as well the opening the window to the future. We have some questions so far. The two questions have been brought during your first part of the presentation, so let's look at them right now. So Mark, your question was the first one. Would you like to elaborate yourself and ask it directly to the professor? Mark?
Yeah, sorry, I had to find the unmute button. Hi, thanks for the great presentation. I just have a question about Japan. We can see the depth is very important in Japan. Where do you see Japan fit in this China, US, Europe relationship in the future? And also physically in that street. I mean, the Chinese Sea, and is one day Japan becoming a province of China?
Great question. Well, I think we need to separate what is economic and what is political. Economic, the Japan economy, it's in a hole, kind of in a hole. It's difficult for them because they have deflation. No, it's what we could say an old economy. Yeah, has got a kind of structural weakness in terms of. But even though but it seemed what is different according to Japan is that in the 90s it seemed that Japan was to take advantage over that would overcome the United States, but then structural difficulties. That this is inflation mainly leads that that they can't and they want in the next 20 years. But even though he's a player, he's a big player. It will be part of the five guys, the 5 countries, most powerful countries in the world. In terms of geopolitical, well, the Japanese culture, nothing to be with Chinese culture, nothing to be. They're all Asians, but this will lead also tensions to Japan Sea. That's clear. We will have always a look about these islands, the close island to continent, what is also Taiwan, Taiwan, China, Taiwan, Japan. Well, we have to, these tensions will always be there, but I don't think this is a threat for the next years right now. We must think most of that is China itself, the borders, they have a fear about their borders. It's more about China's borders than others. More than thinking about expensive borders, is to protect their borders. And their politics goes under this way because Chinese people also, the Chinese people fears that. We can see, oh, all is the Communist Party. Yes, but we can't see any protest movement. The latest protest was in Tiananmen. Do you remember? It was really 30 years ago. So we can expect a social movement into China. They have a growth economy. Everybody has a welfare economy, even more every day. So we can expect that it is going to change. I hope I have answered your question.
You certainly did. And if I may have just a question, which is, how should Europe behave towards China? Should we embrace it or should we be cautious?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. Very pertinent. And of this, the answer would be, how do you feel? How do you feel being China, the leader of the world? This is the real question. If it's going,
do we have a choice?
Well, the fact is, do we think that it's going to overcome? Because the source of power are 3 ones: the GDP, the currency, and the military force. The military force is really far right now. The distance is really as big as it's completely difficult to overcome in the next 30 years, 20, 30 years. the budget of the American administration in military force, nothing to be with that one of the China. The military bases, the American bases in over the world, the cost of it, the float, the fleet, it's completely far. The currency, that wasn't changed. That is not going to change right now. The dollar is right now the king of the board. It's not going to change, and also we don't think that we could think that we could be comfortable being an authoritarian country to be the leader of the world. This is unconceivable. It's completely. This will lead a revolution. Other kind of revolution will overcome before it happens. That's my opinion.
Professor, may I have one question? Just
Sure. Speaking.
So I have some experience of working with China, frankly speaking, but say we really overestimate the capacities of China. Let's take a very simple example. Say Europe has some kind of the negative, or say they have the trade deficit with China. It means that every European, say, finances the China. So, for instance, here in Lithuania, we are really exporting country, and generally we have very huge, say, the positive result. Talking about the trading goods and trading services, but we have only one China, where we have, say, 600 million euros deficit. It means that every Lithuanian gives 200 euros per annum to China to finance China's growth. Actually, we have really very powerful tools. You know, we really can switch a lot of say production to new neighboring countries, for instance, like Ukraine. I don't know, in future maybe Belarus, Russia, and really we have more powers. We have more tools than China. You know? That's really not true that you know, Europe is so poor. It's some kind of a Cinderella, you know, sitting somewhere in the corner. China is too big, and China has a lot of big problems. You know, even just like about the history, about the mentality. I would rather talk about some kind of scenario similar to Japan scenario. You know, it should be taken into very serious consideration. For sure, we saw a very successful story of the growth of China. The China reached the certain levels, you know, of the, I would say the of development, where they should be considering or taking account whether the historical or similar issues, you know. And so that's very, you know, complex. That's very tough issue. That's very tough question talking about China as a world leader. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, just only to answer you, to only one thing. I would like to explain you an anecdote of Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State of United States in the 70s, late 70s. Once we was not in charge, he was asked about Europe, the role of Europe, and he said, Europe, what number, please? The Europe, what number? That means the problem of Europe is who leads Europe. That's always the same. I mean, I agree that Europe is a very powerful region, but it's a country, it's a community. What is Europe? What is Europe? That is the problem.
Yeah, but sorry, Professor, but to stop financing China, we don't need to have the Mr. Europe. We need to have the, say, certain position like some kind of unified Minister of External Affairs of Europe. This is really that the growth of China was financed by the Delft for the United States of America, Europe, Australia, stuff like this, and there is still in place, you know. And say countries like US, Canada, European countries, Australia, really have a lot of, you know, powers to stop pouring money into the economy. transferring, say, production to very neighboring countries, or starting to produce, or being, say, how to say, self-reliant instead of, giving orders to China. There is no need to have any kind of the Mr. Europe or stuff like this. I'm talking about the drivers, about say the drivers of the China group, and say Europeans, Americans. We do have a lot of say the tools to stop say putting money into the Chinese economy. And China, as such, internal market is still under question mark. They really need to be, how to say, international board. They need to have presence in the international markets, because Chinese internal market, it's too small to back the continuity of the success story.
Okay, I really appreciate your considerations.
Thank you very much, Saulus, for the question. Let's move to the next question. We have Oriol. Would you like to ask this question directly to the professor? Would you have?
Sure. Thanks for your explanation, Professor. I'm gonna now turn my camera and my microphone. Actually, I wrote the question, and later on in other slides you mentioned it. But now I'm kind of focusing on how the climate change and concepts around it, kind of circular economy, and how the European Union is investing or will invest lots of funds on the concept of circular economy. What do you think, what role can this play in the global sphere? Because it has a lot of negative consequences, of course, but it also brings business opportunities for those who have the resources and aim to tackle these challenges.
Yeah, for sure. But the problem always in Europe is that before taking a decision, there's a lot of discussion. When China wants to do something, they act completely quickly, because the board of decision it's closed. It doesn't have to discuss really much and to consult really much. Same in the United States administration. They can have some contestation. I mean, the president has powers, and he uses his powers, even if there are the states, but that is not so decentralized as in Europe. In Europe, I repeat, what number? What number in terms intercontinental, inter-countries, but even here, listen, these European funds, it's more than 1 year that we're speaking about the European funds, and now it's announced to be put in place in July, and then we will decide each country how it's going to invest. Not everybody to climate change, not everybody to sustainable economies, not everybody. Everybody will do it as they prefer. That depends on internal economies, because the nationalism grows in Europe, in each country. That means that each government has its own policy. It's complicated to articulate a common political in all issues, because there are a lot of I say more convenient speeches and not real actions. But hope is always there. Hope, we need not to lose hope. But I mean, this will take longer than we expect, or than we can promote, we can say, especially in Europe. Whatever you want to do in Europe will take longer than you expect.
Thanks a lot for that question. And we have one more left from the written questions. So I think Georgie is not with us anymore, so I will read his question to you. He was asking, within your macroeconomics part, the first one, he was asking the question, has the pandemic not supercharged the external debt levels?
Yeah, the external debt levels, I haven't shown it. I said because I have enough handkerchief for everybody. because we need to cry about what is expected to the future for us. Because, but the thing we must think is that everybody will have great debt. The problem when we speak about the external debt is when one country has more external debt than others. This makes disequilibrium in the economy. But when everybody leads the same situation, everybody is concerned about debt in the same rules, there is that no makes difference. The same, we play the same rules, everybody. So if all states are in the same level of debt, bigger, but in the same level, that's not a real problem. The problem is when you are in different competitiveness position comparing with other countries. That will be, because in the next years, some countries will spend more, and the rate of expenses will grow, and the main focus must be right now from the European community that everybody gets the same level of debt, not to provoke any disequilibrium.
Thanks a lot. So far, we don't have any other questions in the chat box. However, maybe somebody would like to use the opportunity and ask one more question or a couple questions for Joseph. Okay, we have one more question from Davidus. Davidus, would you like to ask that question out loud to the professor? Okay, then let me read the question of Davidus to you. He was asking, what about the UK position after the Brexit? Are they in the better or worse position now? And how about in the future?
Well, the British position has more political issues than economic issues, but completely has led to economic issues. Well, I can say the fact is that I have some companies that I work with in the board, and we have right now deciding to not buy this kind of products because of problems, border tax. And if you can find the same product into the European community, remember, all is Europe, but we speak about European community, European market. And right now, UK is not in the European market. So it's a foreign country in terms of economic issues, and it's treated so in this way. Their product will be will not be at the same price. Will have higher cost. It will be higher cost to buy and sell to UK. Mainly the next years, but then I think waters will allow. New agreements will raise. The natural process will run. We must think that long-term thought, long-term ways makes that things put in its position, its natural position. And the natural position for the UK is that transactions must be easy because we share quite the common. The main market for the UK products is the European community, and then and both the same. That hasn't changed. So, in a natural way, when political lowers, when politics lower, that will. That's an opinion, not more.
So you would say there will be not a big difference from how it was before and how it will be in future in terms of the economy.
Yeah, but I mean, right now it's hard, but in the long term, trade will be easier. Trading must be easy. for both parties, because for both interests, for them and for to us, it necessarily will go on this way. But now the European Commission needs to punish UK for their actions. It's a kind of you've been a bad guy, and you are knowing that getting out of the European community has a cost. You must learn that. When you have learned that, we will speak again about how to manage trading in a more fair way.
Thanks a lot, Joseph. Do we have any other questions?
If I may, just the last one.
Sure, go ahead, Mark.
If all countries have external debt after COVID, that's okay. But China doesn't, does it? So
No.
What if China owns all external debts of all other countries?
Well, but it is going to lower, I think, because right now China is the production factory for the world, but it is going to change in the next years because process of relocation will take place, but not the whole. And also perhaps we will think about putting a factory in Morocco or in Portugal, some countries that it's not as far as China, not depending on China, not depending on the almost the channel of Suez. I mean, this is going to lower a bit, but where is going that money? The excedents, where are going to? They are going to finance the external debt of the United States. And that means that the United States, even if they have a balance, a current balance deficitary, a negative balance, they get money to finance their debt. Even if they do something bad, their money goes up. Their currency goes up. Because China has excedents and finances the treasury debt. That means this is a kind of equilibrium. If you are two big guys, even if you don't feel comfortable one with another in terms of politics, in terms of liberty, in terms of whatever you want, but if you buy a lot of, if your trading it's really as big as it is right today, you need to understand yourselves. So you need to be in some way comfortable with each other. So what you do, your debt, you don't have debt, but you finance the debt of the others. That's has made the equilibrium these last years, and will go on this way, but not in such level as today, because we have also doubts that China's growth is going to be steadily as has been right now. We think that it's going to lower this path of growth, because structural growth of China has been because they have changed from agriculture to industry. But right now, these changes has already quite finished. It's complicated to think that this path, this rate of growth is going to fall. It's complicated to think that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone to attend this event, and special thank you for our special guest today, Joseph Maria More. So just a few announcements before we go to our lovely evenings. Quite soon, in June 3, we will have another webinar on strategic business negotiation, behavior, and gender factor with Mira Vasic. And as well, just short announcement, which is not announced from BMI side just yet, but it will be quite soon, next week. BMI is launching the new academy for investors and corporates who would like to know how to obtain the startupish mindset in order to be even more successful in this fast-moving and quite competitive environment we live right now. So thank you very much for everyone to attend this event, and I wish you a lovely evening.